I want to start by saying that I am not someone who believes in the paranormal. I am an engineer. I think in systems and logic and cause and effect. When something happens, I look for the rational explanation first, and I almost always find one. Almost always. I live alone in a ground floor apartment. I have lived there for 3 years. I know every sound that building makes, the pipes in winter, the elevator clicking into place, the way the hallway floorboards creak when the couple upstairs come home late. I know this building the way you know a language you have spoken your whole life, fluently, without thinking. It started on a Thursday night in February. I had gone to bed early, around 10, because I had an early start the next morning. I was in a deep sleep when something woke me. 3 knocks on my front door. Slow, deliberate, evenly spaced. Not aggressive, not the frantic knock of someone in distress. Just 3 calm, measured knocks. The kind of knock that says, I know you are in there. I can wait. I looked at my phone. 3:02 a.m. I lay completely still for a moment. My heart was going fast. That specific panic of being woken suddenly from deep sleep. I told myself it was a neighbor. Wrong apartment, maybe. Someone coming home drunk and confused. I got up, walked to the door, looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The motion sensor light, which activates whenever anything moves in that corridor, was off, which meant nothing had moved in that hallway recently enough to trigger it. I stood there for a long moment. Then I went back to bed. I told myself I had dreamed it. People dream of knocking sounds all the time. I almost convinced myself. The following Thursday, exactly 1 week later, it happened again. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate. I was already half awake this time, as if some part of me had been waiting for it. I checked my phone before I even got out of bed. 3:02 a.m., same time, to the minute. I moved faster this time. I was at the door within seconds of the 3rd knock. I checked the peephole immediately. Empty hallway, motion sensor light off. I opened the door, stepped out into the corridor, looked both ways. Nothing. No one. The hallway was completely silent and completely empty. The motion sensor light clicked on when I stepped out, which confirmed it had not been triggered before I opened the door. Whatever, whoever had knocked, had not been standing in that hallway. I stood there in the corridor in my bare feet at 3 a.m., feeling genuinely unnerved for the first time in years. I am not someone who gets unnerved easily. I went back inside, locked the door, checked every room in my apartment. Everything was exactly as I had left it. I did not sleep again that night. I spent the next week telling myself there was a rational explanation. Sound travels strangely in old buildings. Maybe the knocking was coming from another floor, and the acoustics were making it sound like my door. Maybe a pipe somewhere was causing a rhythmic knocking sound that my half-asleep brain had interpreted as knocking. Maybe. The 3rd Thursday, I did not go to sleep at all. I sat in my living room with the lights off, facing the front door, with my phone in my hand, and the camera pointed at the door from across the room. Recording, waiting. At 3:01 a.m., I held my breath. At 3:02 a.m., 3 knocks. I was at the door before the 3rd knock had finished. I had the handle in my hand before the sound had faded. I yanked it open immediately. The hallway was empty. Motion sensor light off. I looked down at the floor outside my door, and I felt something shift inside me that has never fully shifted back. There were wet footprints on the floor outside my door. 2 of them, side by side, facing my door. like someone had been standing there. The prints were already fading, drying as I looked at them, as if whoever had made them had been standing there long enough for the moisture to start evaporating. But the hallway was empty. The motion sensor had not triggered. There was no one there. I photographed the footprints before they fully disappeared. I showed them to my landlord the next day. He had no explanation. Building management reviewed the hallway security camera footage from 3 a.m. The camera showed the empty hallway. No movement, no person, nothing. And then, at exactly 3:02 on the timestamp, the camera feed went to static for 11 seconds. When it came back, the hallway was empty, and the footprints outside my door were already fading. It has now been 4 months since the last time it happened. I do not know why it stopped. I do not know what was knocking. I do not know how footprints appeared in an empty hallway that no one walked through. I am an engineer. I think in systems and logic and cause and effect. I have no explanation for this. None. I got my dog Remy 3 years ago. He is a golden retriever. The kind of dog that is afraid of his own shadow, startles at loud noises, runs from plastic bags blowing in the wind. The gentlest, most anxious animal I have ever owned. He has never once growled at a person. He has never once shown aggression toward anything. Which is why what started happening in October scared me more than I can properly explain. It started small. I woke up one night at around 3 a.m. to find Remy sitting up in his bed, staring at the corner of my bedroom. The far left corner, near the window. Just sitting completely upright and completely still. Staring, not making a sound, not moving. I assumed he had heard something, a mouse maybe, or a sound from outside. I told him to lie down. He ignored me, which he never does. He just kept staring at that corner with an intensity I had never seen from him before. After about 5 minutes, he lay back down. I went back to sleep. The next night, same thing. I woke at 3 a.m. Remy was sitting up staring at the same corner. Same posture, same absolute stillness, same complete silence. I started paying attention to the time after the third night, because it was always the same. 3 a.m., give or take a few minutes. Remy would be sitting up staring at the corner. Every single night. Like clockwork. I want to be clear about what made this so disturbing. It was not just that he was staring at a corner. It was how he was staring. Remy is an expressive dog. He communicates constantly through body language, through his ears, through the position of his tail. I know every expression he has. The expression he wore staring at that corner was one I had never seen before. His ears were completely flat against his head, the way they go when he is frightened. His tail was tucked. His body was rigid. But he was not whimpering. He was not retreating. He was just staring, frozen, watchful, like he was looking at something he did not understand, something that frightened him, but that he felt compelled to watch. I started sleeping with the light on. I started checking that corner before I went to bed every night, moving the small table that was there, looking behind it, looking at the wall, looking at the ceiling above it. Nothing. Just a corner of a room. I had a friend stay over, someone who did not know about what had been happening. I did not tell her anything. I just waited. At 3 a.m., I heard her whisper my name from the living room where she was sleeping. I went out to find her sitting up on the sofa staring toward my bedroom. She said Remy had woken her up. She said he was in the doorway of my bedroom, standing completely still, staring into the room. She said the hair on the back of her neck had stood up. She said she did not know why. She said she just felt wrong, like something in that room was wrong. She left early the next morning. She has not stayed over since. I bought a thermometer that measures room temperature, and I started checking the corner every night before bed and again when Remy woke me up. I do not know what I expected to find. On the 14th night of doing this, I found something. The corner where Remy stared every night was consistently 3 to 4 degrees colder than the rest of the room. Not slightly colder, significantly colder. I checked for drafts. I checked the window. I checked the wall for signs of damp or insulation problems. I had a contractor look at it. He found nothing that would explain a temperature differential of that magnitude in that specific location. I started recording video of the corner from 2:45 a.m. onward each night. 30 nights of footage. On the 19th night, the recording showed something I still do not have an explanation for. At 3:03 a.m., the temperature in the corner, visible on the digital thermometer I had placed there, dropped by 6 degrees in under a minute. And Remy, who was asleep in his bed, raised his head, turned it slowly toward the corner, and sat up. He stared at that corner for 22 minutes without moving. The temperature returned to normal at 3:25 a.m. Remy lay back down immediately, like something had left. I moved out of that apartment 2 months later. I told myself it was for other reasons. I know it was not. Remy has never stared at a corner since. Not once. Not in the 18 months we have lived in our new place. Whatever was in that corner, it stayed in that apartment. And I genuinely hope whoever lives there now does not have a dog. I have always been a solid sleeper. 8 hours, barely move, no dreams I can remember. My whole life I have been that person who falls asleep within minutes and wakes up when the alarm goes off. Sleep has never been something I have had to think about. Until last spring. It started gradually. I would wake up in the middle of the night, not from a noise, not from a dream, just suddenly and completely awake, and check my phone to find it was somewhere between 2:50 and 3:10 a.m. I would lie there for a few minutes, feel nothing in particular, and fall back asleep. After 2 weeks of this, I mentioned it to a colleague at work. She said it sounded like my body clock was off. She suggested cutting caffeine after midday. I tried it. It made no difference. After a month of waking at 3 a.m. every single night, I started to feel genuinely unsettled by it. Not because of anything specific that happened when I woke. Nothing happened. I would just wake up, lie in the dark, fall back asleep. But the consistency of it was starting to feel wrong, too precise, too reliable, like an alarm that no one had set. I went to my doctor. She ran some tests, found nothing, suggested it might be stress-related, and recommended a sleep tracking app. I downloaded the app. It monitors movement and sound during sleep and logs anything unusual. I ran it for 2 weeks. The app data showed something that made the room tilt around me when I read it. Every single night, without exception, there was a period of elevated sound activity in my bedroom between 2:55 a.m. and 3:05 a.m. The app recorded this as ambient noise. Not loud enough to trigger the full recording function, just enough to register as above the baseline silence threshold. Something was making noise in my bedroom every night at 3 a.m., and that noise was waking me up. I checked the recordings the app had captured. Most nights, it was just a low ambient sound, barely there. But on 3 separate nights, over the 2-week period, the sound was clear enough to make out. It was breathing, slow, steady breathing, in and out. Calm and rhythmic. Not my breathing. I was lying still and the sound was coming from across the room. Not an animal. I do not have pets. Not from outside. My bedroom window faces an interior courtyard, and the recordings showed no street noise alongside it. Someone was breathing in my bedroom at 3 a.m. I sat with that information for a very long time. I went through my apartment. I checked every possible entry point. Every window, every door, every lock. Everything was secure. There was no way someone could have been in my bedroom. No way in and no way out without triggering the alarm system I had installed 2 months earlier after a break-in in my building. The alarm had never triggered. Not once. I called a security company. They sent someone to do a full sweep of the apartment, checking for points of entry, checking the alarm system, checking for anything unusual. They found something in my bedroom that the alarm company installer had missed 8 months earlier when the system was put in. Behind the large wardrobe on the far wall of my bedroom, a wardrobe that had been in the apartment when I moved in and that I had never moved, there was a door. Not a large door. A low, narrow door, maybe 4 feet high, cut into the wall behind the wardrobe and painted over so many times that the edges had become almost invisible. A door that led to a small crawl space running between my apartment and the vacant unit next door. The crawl space was approximately 4 feet wide and ran the length of my bedroom wall. It was empty, mostly. There was dust. There were old pipes. And in one corner, on the floor, there was an area where the dust had been disturbed, flattened. Like someone had been lying there. Like someone had been lying there regularly. Like someone had been lying on the other side of my bedroom wall every night. At 3 a.m., the police were called. They investigated. They found fingerprints in the crawl space. They found a small pen-light torch. They found a phone charging cable plugged into an old socket in the crawl space wall. They never identified who it was. The vacant unit next door had been accessed through a window that backed onto a fire escape. No one had reported anything unusual. No one had seen anyone. I was out of that apartment within 48 hours. I have never gone back. I think about that crawl space every single night. I think about how long it had been happening before I noticed. I think about lying in my bed in the dark, completely unaware, while someone lay on the other side of that wall, breathing slowly in the silence. I think about all the nights I slept straight through and never woke at 3 a.m. And I wonder what was different about those nights. I wonder what changed. I wonder what made them start. And I wonder, more than anything else, what they were waiting for. Check behind your wardrobe tonight. I am not joking.